Today we shall be looking at something that we got from the Deadlock protocol update to the game, which is super interesting actually, because it is corpus lore. Something that the game has sort of been lacking in previously. Just good explanations for what the corpus are, or where they come from, or what the relationship is with the rest of the system, like the Grineer or the Orokin, stuff like that. That golden hand sure is nice. So we got these here plaques, the 11 Tenets of Parvos Granum. I'll show you a bit later in the video how you can get these for yourself. But you collect them on the new Grineer spaceship tile sets, and in so doing, in collecting them, you also unlock some voice lines by Parvos Granum. He's explaining his history, where he comes from, and his 11 tenets, which formed the basis for corpus society, at least back then. So what you can do if you have collected all of them is you can go to your codex and to the fragments, and they are all right here. So just like with all other fragments, like the ones you collect from the Cephalon fragments, the text is down here, but you can also like hover over the screen and just find the secret voice line, and then it'll be read out loud. Somewhere around here. Huh? Come on. Where is it?
Day after day, we toiled. My father, my brother Claudius, pulling grains for the Orokin takers in the city, as our kind had done for generations. We were young, but the work made us old. Our backs ached, our hands bled. The sun tortured our skin. In the worst times, it felt as though death would claim us before the day was through. It was on one such afternoon that I was fated to first hear that glorious sound. A whisper I strained to hear in a tongue not of man, but of something else, something grander, a language I understood instinctively, the language of desire. It said, "Fear not poverty. Poverty is the bitter soil in which sweet desire blossoms."
Fear not poverty, huh? That's the first tenet. And this one is a bit interesting right from the start, because we learned that Parvos Granum, who is, you know, the founder of the Corpus Empire, or as it were, if it is an empire, but he was not an Orokin. He was a farmer working for the Orokin, toiling in the fields, pulling grains.
The more we toiled, the more impatient I grew. A fire raged inside me. I wanted more. I deserved more. But how? The whisper washed over me, louder now than before. Fortune despises the idle man. Stasis is death. Always move forward. And so, with only the whisper to guide me, I straightened my back, wiped the dirt from my hands, and left.
Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting that, like, Parvos Granum lived, you know, during the Orokin Empire. So this is thousands of years ago. The Awoken Empire has not yet fallen.
The city, those towers, I was struck with awe. What glorious totems of greed these Awoken had built. Built on our backs. Their wealth was my wealth. I was starved, while our masters were fat and full and warm. They flaunted their wealth, left it sitting there for the taking. Priceless gemstones decorating the tower gates. I was afraid, but the whisper gave me courage. Be envious, covet, then take what you desire. So that is what I did.
Such a cool new character. It was like, he's very different in philosophy from the other Corpus board members. Because, you know, the idea is that it has devolved, right? What the Corpus is now is not what the Corpus used to be. When you have the voice line saying that, like, they're a money-worshipping cult, that's pretty much true. But it's not what it used to be. It's not money worship. But I like the idea of greed being held up as a virtue, and desire and enviousness being held up as virtues because they lead to ambition, and will make you work harder. Some are up here.
I was brash and bold. I struck it midday. I cried, I take what I am owed, as I ripped jewels from their tower gates and ran. I did not get far. For my blasphemy, they dragged me to the tower square, throwing me to the ground in front of the sneering crowd of Awoken servants that mingled there. The guards held aloft my satchel, containing the proof of my crime. I grasped at it, determined to reclaim what was mine. He snatched my arm, held me high, and, with a dash of his plasma dagger, severed my left hand. The crowd jeered, yet I felt no pain, only clarity, for the whisper was with me again. It said, "Deception is the sword of wisdom. Be wise." They took my hand that day, but they did not take what I had earned.
This is one of the tenets that has sort of, I guess, survived into modern corpus society, where it's just, you know, lie, bullshit, scheme, tricks. Don't tell people the truth, just con your way to wealth. That's fine, so long as you get wealthy, as long as you get what you want, you know, it doesn't matter how you do it.
I crawled back to the fields, where I collapsed before my father and my brother. I was so near death, they read my Navarites. My brother Claudius bemoaned me as a fool. How could I have abandoned them? Guilt washed over me. I asked the whisper, was he right? And the whisper replied, beware the idle man who would lull you back to idleness. Hearing this, I felt the life force stream back into me. I sat up. They protested. I stood, and they tried to pull me down. I was too strong. There was now a fire in my chest that would not be denied.
We're just gonna jump immediately to the next one here with the gemstone.
Moving swiftly from sickbed to field, I fell to my knees beneath that relentless sun, my chest afire as it moved to my throat, robbing me of breath. Certain death had finally found me. I made one last heave. I spat it out. A molten red gemstone of the purest, clearest rubido. Swallowing that stone would have killed a man of weaker will, but not a man sustained by the power of desire. It was worth more than my family had made in 10 generations. It would fetch enough to feed us all for a lifetime. As I stared into its brilliant facets, a familiar voice rushed through me. Contentment is idleness. Desire inspires action. Nurture all desires. And so, with my brother and father pleading for my return, I once again left for the city.
I find this one a bit funny because they they made a bit of a mistake, I guess, in this plaque, in this artwork. I'm gonna have to wait for it to move back to the right side. But as you can see, in this picture, Parvos Granum once again has both of his hands. So, whoopsie. That's a bit of a whoopsie. It's a small one. Come on, find it.
In desire, I was wealthy, but in strategy, I was empty-handed. I listened for the whisper. It said, money begets money. With my jewel as collateral, I secured a loan, and with that sum, I gave my own loans to poor men like me who desired more. With each loan, I dispensed truths I had learned from the whisper. Those men went out into the world and they too made loans, and their money too begat money. Word spread fast. Men flocked to hear me. I told them of the evils of contentment and idleness. I taught them the gift of desire.
So this is like the new golden hand already, but he's going to talk about that later. So yeah, that's the philosophy of Ric Flair. to make money, you gotta spend money. No, that's not it at all. But what I do love, and I guess like this symbol is not a coincidence. I do love the idea that the Corpus Empire was built on a pyramid scheme. Whereas like that's how he made his fortune. Kinda. I don't know. It's not exactly a pyramid scheme because he was a money lender. And then he lent money to other people who also lent money to others, and you know, interest rates, so on and so forth, which is not exactly the same as a pyramid scheme, because like there is value in money lending. You are actually providing a service. But you know, hey, let's not get too deep into the inner workings of capitalism. This is all about lore and Warframe. There's nothing political about
In
Warframe.
time, my money multiplied into multitudes. With this wealth, I made my body whole again. Then news came. Father had collapsed in the field. I rushed back to my family's humble farm to be by his side, but his death was sudden. Claudius mourned, but I was committed to ending the brutal labor my family and people had endured for generations. The whisper approved. It said, charity is power. More charity is more power.
So you can, like, take from this what you will about his motivations and his actions. Where, yeah, he could have stayed and just spent the money he had on his brother and his father, and the three of them could have had a good life. But apparently, like, you know, there were more of his people, and the idea was that he was going to change the world, like to turn it into something different, and end the slavery of his entire people. And like it's the old question of, like, just, you know, the ends justifying the means, or looking at the bigger picture and whatnot. And there's probably also the whole, I don't know, Breaking Bad Walter White thing, where, like, he says that he does it for his people, but maybe he's just doing it for himself. Maybe it really is all about him. Right?
Claudius begged me to stop my megadoses. If you build a city on these fields, what will we eat? To which I replied, just as I consumed the gemstone that fed my fortune, our people will eat the wealth I have bestowed upon them. What of our home, he cried, our traditions? I pondered this until the whisper gave me the words. Shun sentimentality. It is a weakness that binds the idle man.
Now, this one is, like, a bit interesting when it comes to the whole idea of people being sort of held down by their own situation, or by their own past, or their own social situation. Where you have his brother sort of denying the idea of progress and building yourself up, and wanting to stay a farmer, and wanting to stay poor, and basically, in a way, wanting to stay a slave to the Orkin, invoking our traditions and our past and our home, as in, and the question always comes, like, okay, but where do those traditions come from? Did they get handed down to you? Did you create those traditions yourselves? Are you supposed to be slaves by tradition? Who is telling you that? And maybe sometimes it is the correct thing to bury the past if you want to be able to move forward and become something else. Maybe you have to abandon your traditions. Well, at least that's what Parvos did.
I believe my father would have smiled with pride as I smashed our family home into the dirt. It saddens me that father did not live to see the glory of Corposium, the city I erected upon our meager land. Men of desire will always be outnumbered by idle men, men of fear. But small men can never hold back men of strength and desire. Fulfill desire, and others will follow.
So that's what the name of the Corpus comes from. The city that he erected, called Corposium, which became, like, the foundation of the Corpus Empire. It's a bit messed up, though, and a bit dark here, that you can see that his younger brother is being held in chains. And it sort of hints at the fact that Parvos is kind of a hypocrite, and isn't as magnanimous as he wants to give off the impression of being.
My gift to the future is an idea. An idea that wealth need not settle as a crust upon the upper echelons of the populace. No. Any poor grain farmer can, should he feed his desire and apply his wisdom, take fortune for himself. The more, the better. And when men of fortune come together under great leadership, their potential is exponential. Just as my money replaced what the Orkin took from me and made my body whole again, Our collective desire will create a new body. A body forged of fortune and unencumbered by idleness or sentimentality. Ours is the grasping golden hand. We are desire. We are corpus.
And I guess this is the tenet that the corpus have forgotten, which is why Parvos is coming back. The idea that wealth should not settle as a crust upon the upper echelons of the populace, which is exactly what happened. Look no further than Nef Anyo, who basically just has become a new slave driver, keeping the poor down and just hoarding all of the wealth for himself, while being idle and content and not really having any greater aspirations besides just hoarding wealth. A couple of interesting things. Number one is that Parvos Granum does not deny that Nef Anyo is his son, which sort of calls into question, like, how old do the corpus get? Because Parvos Granum was alive during the awoken era, right? And that was thousands of years ago. We know that Ballas is still around, and he was there too, so there are people who can get thousands of years old, but he was an awoken. So, Parvos Granum was alive back then. He got lost into the void and brought back now, but like, just Nef Anyo, like, is he thousands of years old? And this sort of ties into something from the second Dream Quest, where Hunhao, the sentient, refers to Aladvi as an awoken. And that does so several times, which has always been sort of a question mark, which we didn't really know anything about before. Where it's like, were the corpus awoken? And when the awoken empire fell, did they just sort of like rebrand themselves into this? But I guess not. I guess not, because the founder of the corpus empire was not an awoken. He was just a farmer. But there is the theory that some awoken, sort of like just as the awoken empire fell, some awoken just instead turned to the corpus way of life. So it is possible that Aladvi is in fact an awoken who then sort of just became a member of corpus society. Because unlike Grenier, who are just like, you know, clones of each other and whatnot, corpus society is founded around like an idea or idealism and stuff. So I guess maybe they work with the assumption that like anyone can be a corpus, anyone can be a part of the corpus society if you just accept the tenets and the corpus way of life. So that's it. That's cool. That gives us a lot of new insights into the corpus that we didn't have before. So if you want to collect these tenets for yourself, just both so you get them in the codex and so that you get the actual plaques. I'm just gonna these that you can just decorate your orbiter with. I chose to put them in here in this big room, showing, you know, his path to creating awoken society. So what you do is you go to the corpus ship tileset, the new one. And when you're at the corpus ship tileset, sometimes you are going to find a big sort of temple relief with a big statue of Corpus Granum. And there's going to be a console there where you can feed a Granum coin into that console. And you will receive one of the 11 tenets. And it does not matter which sort of Granum coin you use. There are 3 different kinds. So, you know, just use the cheapest ones or the ones you have the most of. Who knows? You get those for killing treasurers who spawn into Corpus Ship tileset missions after a couple of minutes. The easiest way of getting these tenets is by running the boss fight on Samat on Neptune, which is the boss fight against the hyena pack. Because the hyena pack can spawn in 2 different sort of locations for the boss fight. And one of the locations that they can spawn into is the actual temple relief. So if you just run this boss fight enough times, you know, you're just gonna get a waypoint showing you exactly where the temple relief is. You can run other missions as well, but you probably have to scour the entire map to find it, and it doesn't always spawn into the map, so it's much easier to just do it this way. And once you feed the coin into the thing, you can walk up and see a larger version of this this plaque that you just got. And once you have all 11, don't do that anymore. Just feeding more coins into it is not going to give you anything new, so it's just a waste. And that's it. That's how you get those. And I guess we have to sort of wait for the continuation of the new war to see where this goes, and if we're gonna get more corpus lore after that, since Parvos Granum, who's now back and has presumably taken control of the corpus, has said that he is going to sort of reallocate corpus resources and priorities to focus on dealing with the coming sentient threat. So does that mean they're going to become our allies in the new war? Hard to tell. I guess, you know, I guess we'll find out soon enough.